Hello and welcome back to The Artful Chef. If you were in my Art 1 class last year, you learned about color theory and the basics of color theory. So in this video, you will do a quick review of the different things that you learned last year in class, but we will also go into color theory a little deeper than what we did last year. And so you're going to learn some new things, and hopefully you will remember what you learned last year. So let's get started. So last year when we were learning about the color wheel, we did use mostly paint to create this. In this particular lesson, I want to go with colored pencil because I want you to gain some colored pencil skills when it comes to blending. So let's review our color wheel. We know that our primary colors are yellow, blue, and red. Last year you created your secondary colors, which were orange, green, and violet. So the way that you create the orange is by adding red and yellow to get your orange. You mix yellow and blue to get your green. And you mix blue and red to get your purple. So what we did not talk about last year are our tertiary colors. So that is our third level of colors that you get from mixing. So if you mixed your yellow and your green, you would come up with a yellow-green. If you mixed your green and your blue, you would get a blue-green. Your blue and your violet or purple would give you a blue-violet or blue-purple, and so on until you make your way around your color wheel. Some other things that we talked about briefly last year were neutral colors. So neutral colors are your black, your gray, and your white. We talked about monochromatic, and monochromatic is when you have all of the same color scheme. So in a monochromatic color scheme, you do use tints, shades, and tones. Those are when you add white, gray, and black to your main color. So in this particular color scheme, we have our main color of purple, but we have added a white, a gray, and a black to it to create all those different shades of the same color. You can also go with different shades in the same color family to create your monochromatic look. So these are all colors that are within that red family. So pinks and reds and different shades of pinks and reds. So a couple ways that you can create monochromatic. If you remember, we talked about complementary colors, and going back to our color wheel, complementary colors are colors that land directly across from each other on the color wheel. So yellow and purple, red and green, orange and blue, those are complementary colors. So I have an example of red and green here for our complementary. Analogous colors are the colors that land in threes next to each other on the color wheel. So in this particular color scheme right here, I have blue-green, blue, and purple. But any group of three going around the color wheel is an analogous color. As a review for your lesson this week, I would like for you to begin by creating the old school style color wheel. So find something round to trace or freehand a circle. Make 6 lines to create 12 pieces of your pie here. Then I want you to color with your primary colors first, your yellow, your blue, and your red. So if you have 3 spaces in between each of those, that will give you the space that you need to create your secondary colors, which are your orange, purple, and green. And then another space on either side to create your tertiary colors. Those are going to be the colors that are created from the secondary colors. So in your in-between space is where you will color in your secondary color. So if we remember, yellow and blue make green, then our green would go here. Blue and red make purple. And lastly, red and yellow make orange. I started to say orange is created by yellow and red, which really would have been the same thing. So now you have your primary and your secondary colors. And what you want to think about is what would those colors be that fall in between. So if you're going with the colors on either side of the open space, this one would be a yellow-green. This one would be a green-blue or blue-green. This one would be a blue-purple or a purple-blue. This would be a red-purple, which is actually typically known as magenta. The red and the orange would be a red-orange. And the orange and the yellow would be a yellow-orange. Or an orange-yellow. So we're going to fill in these triangles with the appropriate shade. So if you have completed your color wheel with your tertiary colors, we know we have already talked about complementary colors that fall across from each other on the color wheel. We have analogous colors, which is a group of 3 that are next to each other on the color wheel. But there is a new one. This is called Triadic. So a triadic color scheme is a group of colors that are evenly spaced around the color wheel. So if we're talking about evenly spaced, that means they have the same number of colors in between each other. So if you look at orange, green, and purple, there are 3 colors between the orange and the green. There are 3 colors between the green and the purple, and so on. So those are evenly spaced on the color wheel. So a good example of your triadic color scheme would be, sorry, I started to write yellow, orange, green, and purple. So to do your blending, find your orange, the little orange, a little green, and a little purple. So this is known as a triadic color scheme. And it can be any 3 as long as they are evenly spaced apart on the color wheel. The next one that I want to talk to you about are split complementary. So split complementary is just a variation on the complementary color scheme. And so it uses the 2 colors from a base color that are next to each other to complement them. So for example, I'm going to turn this so red is here. So if I'm looking at my red and I look at the colors on either side of them. So I have a red violet and a red orange. The complementary split color scheme would be the green that is complementary of the red. But then instead of using the red, you're going to have the 2 colors that go on either side of it. So a split complementary color scheme, if I was going to color this out, would have my green, my red violet, and my red orange. So let me get those colors together real quick. There's my red orange and my red violet. So this is what split complementary would look like. So it's those colors on either side of the complementary color. And there you go. Did you know that you can actually make skin tones using colored pencils? You don't always have to use paint to create a skin tone, and you don't have to have the exact color of the skin tone that you are going for, as long as you know how to layer properly, you know how to work with tints and shades. You can create just about any skin tone you want. You do have to have a bigger box of colored pencils. I have the 36 count for this, but I am going to be working with these different shades to create different skin tones. So skin tones, when you're working with colored pencils do require a little bit of experimenting with your shade blending and your colors. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start with a brown and this terracotta, which is kind of a peach color. And people typically think, oh, like for me, my kids would color me peach, but I'm not really peach. I have a lot of brown in my skin. So I'm going to do a little layer of terracotta. I'm going to extend it a little bit. Then I'm going to come on top of it a little bit with my brown. And I'm going to keep layering that until I get that skin tone in the center that I'm going for. And as you experiment with different colored pencils, mixing them together and blending them to create different skin tones, make note of what you're using so that when you go back later, you don't have to experiment again to figure out how did I get that shade. So if you are doing this in your sketchbook, let's say you're getting ready to do a color pencil portrait for an AP project or something in Art 2 or 3, and you really want to get your skin tone correct. If you have these notes here, that's going to help you. So I'm going to know that if I write this down, that I have terracotta here, and I have brown here, it's going to give me this particular skin tone that I'm looking at. So let's go with a little bit different one here. I'm going to go with this sunflower and this peach, and I'm going to add in a little tint of white. And let's see what kind of skin tone we get out of this. So I'm going to do everything first with the sunflower. And I'm going to come in with the terracotta. And then put that layer of white on top of it. And this is just an excellent way to experiment to try to get a skin tone that you like by mixing tints and shades and not just by blending two colors together. So I've blended a couple of different colored pencil sticks together to give you some different skin tone options. In this particular row right here, I started both lines with the base color of caramel, but here I added sunflower and then a tint of white. Over here I added brown and a shade of black to create totally different skin tones, but all based on that starting caramel color. And then over here I have a couple of options: sunflower, terracotta, and white. Terracotta moving into brown to create those different ones. To get the perfect skin color, you will need to just experiment and make note of what you used so that you can go back and do it again later. But as a bonus, I just want to show you these color sticks that I talked about in the very beginning, because I want you to see how nicely they blend together. I also want to show you one of the really cool things about these colored sticks is because they're flat and they don't have that wooden pencil on the outside that has to be sharpened. You can actually do this and you can cover large areas of your paper at once just by rubbing the pencil stick on its side. But I'm going to layer these and then blend them with that baby oil so you can kind of see the difference in the colored pencil that I was using before versus these color sticks. And like I said, I absolutely love the color sticks, and I recommend that if you have the ability to order some from Amazon, go to that description area and you will find a link for these. They come in lots of package sizes, but for anyone who loves to work with colored pencils, they really are amazing. So even without putting the baby oil on here, you can already see there's a noticeable difference in the coverage between the pencil stick versus the regular colored pencil. But I'm going to dip this in a little baby oil and just blend that across there so you can see that difference. So excellent product. If you have the ability to get this, I highly recommend it. Now that you've learned all about your color theory, your basic colors, your secondary colors, your different color schemes, for your project this week, there is a template on your PowerPoint that looks similar to this. You are going to draw a keyhole. So this is, if you were looking through the keyhole in your door, this side, everything on the outside, guys, your background is just as important as whatever your focal point is on artwork. So it creates balance and unity, and it makes the piece come together as a whole. If you just leave all of this white, that's not really going to tell the full story. So whatever your door looks like, of that you're looking through the keyhole in, that's what I want you to imagine. So it can be an imaginary door. It can have lots of beautiful ornate patterns on it, or it could be an unusual color. It doesn't have to be basic, because this is art, and in art you don't have to be basic. This is your opportunity to really think outside the box. So this outside part is going to be your door. This is looking through the hole. What I want you to think about is what would be on the other side of that hole. If you could imagine it to be anything, what would you like to see through that hole? It can be realistic. It can be make-believe. If you want to look at fairies and a magical land with unicorns, by all means, you can draw that through here. If you want to look at the beach and the ocean and you just want to do an ocean scene, that's okay too. I want you to think about your different color schemes when you're doing this. Choose a color scheme. Then when you turn in your assignment, let me know which color scheme that you think that you used. If you are an Art 1 student, you will be choosing from your monochromatic, primary, warm, cool. Secondary, you can use analogous colors or complementary colors on anything in here. If you are an Art 2 student, you can take the exterior of your door to another level and you can make it more 2D, 3D if you want. I would love to see that. But I also am looking for you to think a little higher in the color theory process and choose a color scheme that falls into some of the new things that you've learned about this week. So we also reviewed the different things that you did last year, but we also added Tertiary Colors. We added a Triadic color scheme, a split complementary color scheme. So any of those things would be options for you. And if you want to try your hand at any of those skin tone color blendings and you want to draw some people in there, by all means, I would love to see that. So I can't wait to see what you come up with. But remember, template, door, outside is just as important as what's on the inside. And so think about that when you are completing your artwork, and I will see you in class.